Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
You two are way too perky tonight.
Okay, we'll bring it down.
No.
Shabbat Shalom.
Not me. I only perk.
We're going to ease ourselves into Shabbat tonight as we come in and shake the rain off of us. We're going to begin tonight on page 128 with Yerid Nefesh. Please join us, page 128.
Yerid Nefesh Barachaman.
Yerid
Nefesh Barachaman. Beshokavdecha Eretz Zonecha Beshokavdecha La 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 Eretz Zonecha Yarutz Avdecha
So as it's chilly and wet outside, we're going to, in a moment, need to invite in the Sabbath Queen so she could shake that water off. But first, we need to create a sacred community, a Kihilat Kodesh. So let's take a moment by welcoming one another and introducing ourselves to at least 3 people we didn't know when we came in. So let's come back together. We'll have plenty of opportunities to continue our conversations during the Oneg. Let's welcome in the Sabbath Bride on page 138. Mr. President. 138 with Lachado D verses 1 and 9.
Lecha Dodi Likrat Kala Penei Shabbat Nekabla Shabbat Shalom Shabbat Shalom Shabbat Shalom Shamon v'zachor b'dibur echad ishmiyanu el meyuchad Adonai echad u'shemo echad לשם ותפארת ולתהילה. שבת שלום, שבת שלום, שבת שלום ומבורך.
בואי בשלום עטרת בעלה גם בשמחה וצהלה תוך אמוני עם סגולה, עם סגולה. בואי חלה, בואי חלה.
שבת שלום, שבת שלום, שבת שלום ומבורך.
We are blessed to have so many volunteers in our congregation who step forward in a myriad of ways to sing in our choir, to do outreach to those who are ill, to work for social justice. And so if you are somebody who serves on a committee or is part of one of our social action committees or serves in the choir, I'd like to invite you to please join us on the Bima and to do us the honor, or a Torah reader, I shouldn't forget our Torah readers, to do us the honor of lighting the Shabbat candles. The blessing for the candles can be found on page 120, but first we continue with Shalom Aleichem on page 142.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Melech, Malachei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Bokem l'shalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech, Malachei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kirishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we, in our own way, be among those who kindle light.
Amen. We should all just stay here. Barchuni l'shalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech, Malachei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Sekem l'shalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech, Malachei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
Cantor, I think we should have members of the choir come up every Shabbat.
I just think we should just have all committee members come up. That was just amazing.
Yes, but there was a very high
There
percentage
was a high
of choir
percentage
members.
in the choir.
We rise for the Baruch Hu on page 146.
et Adonai hamevorach. Baruch Adonai hamevorach le'olam va'ed.
Please join us on the top of page 149. Praise to you, Adonai our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars, creator of the tide of time and light. You guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai our God, from whom the evening flows. Baruch atah Adonai hama'ariv aravim.
Avat olam Beit Yisrael Amcha ahavta Torah u'mitzvot Chukim u'mishpatim Otanu limadeta Al ken Adonai Eloheinu B'shochveinu v'kumeinu Nafsiach b'chukecha V'nismach b'divrei Toratecha U'v'mitzvotecha Le'olam va'ed. Ki hen chayenu ve'orech yameinu uvahem negen yomam v'layla. Baruch atah Adonai ohev amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai echad. 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 Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Le'olam va'ed. Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Le'olam va'ed.
Please join us with the Ve'ahavta on page 154.
Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha B'chol levavcha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol me'odecha Ve'hayu ha'devarim ha'ele Asher anochi mitzavcha Hayom al levavecha Veshinantam levanecha Vedibarta bam Beshivtecha beveitecha Uvlechtecha vaderech Uvshochbecha uvkumecha Ukshartam leot al yadecha Vehayu letotafot beineinecha Uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha Uvisharecha למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם. Amen.
Please join me on the middle of page 157. In a world torn by violence and pain, a world far from wholeness and peace, give us the courage to say, Adonai, there is one God in heaven and earth. The high heavens declare your glory. May earth reveal your justice and love. From bondage in Egypt we were delivered. At Sinai we bound ourselves to your way. Inspired by prophets and instructed by sages, time and again we overcame oppressive forces. Though our failings are many and our faults are great, it has been our glory to bear witness to our God, keeping alive in dark ages your vision of a world redeemed. Let us continue to work for the day when the nations will be one and at peace. Then shall we rejoice as Israel did, singing on the shores of the sea.
That's not the right one. That's still not the right one.
Do you know that I heard that Miriam and Moses had this same disagreement when we were actually standing at the shores of the sea?
מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נהדר בקודש, נורא תהילו עושה פלא, נורא תהילו עושה פלא. מלכותך ראו בניך, בוקי היה לפני משה ומרים, זה אלי אנו ואמרו, Adonai lo leolam ba'el. Hi da 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 da, ya da 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 da, da 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 da, ya da 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 da, ya da 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 da, ya da 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 da, ya da da da, ya da 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 da. ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב וגלו מיד חזק ממנו. ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל.
The world we live in can be confusing and overwhelming and just a little bit anxiety-provoking. We turn to our community, we turn to our faith for guidance and for wisdom. When we pray the Hashkivena, we're praying not only that God will watch over us, but that God will also guide us through the darkness and towards the light. Please join us on page 160.
Oh, guide my steps and help me find my way. I need your shelter now. Rock me in your arms and guide my steps, and help me make this day a song of praise to you. Rock me in your arms and guide my steps. Oh, guide my steps and help me find my way. I need your shelter now. Rock me in your arms and guide my steps, and help me make this day a song of praise to you. Rock me in your arms and guide my steps. Rock me in your arms and guide my steps.
It is my pleasure to invite up all of our B'nai Mitzvah students who are with us tonight, both those in the adult program and those in the youth program, to do us the honor of leading us in the Vishamru and the Tefillah, beginning on page 162. Did you change your mind?
I did. You know what? It was that whole thing.
Do you want me to lead it tonight?
Yeah, would you?
I'd love to.
It was the whole thing with Moses and Miriam, and it's just taking me back.
I'm sorry, it was my fault.
No, it was my fault. Veshamru b'nei Yisrael et HaShabbat La'asot et HaShabbat לדורותם בrit olam ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ וביום השביעי שבת שבת ויהי נפש שבת שבת ויהי נפש ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם אותי לעולם.
Please rise and join us for the tefillah on page 164.
Adonai safatai tiftachu fi agitei latecha. Adonai, open my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chassadim Tovim, וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות באימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה, מלך חוזר ומושיע ומגן. ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם, ועזרת שרה. אתה גיבור עולם אדוני, מחיי הכל, אתה רב להושיע, משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, Baruch atah Adonai Mekayeh hakol. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, u'kadoshim b'chol yom yehalelu chaseh. Baruch atah Adonai ha'el hakadosh.
We continue praying privately from page 172 through 180, either standing or sitting, as is your custom.
Are we ready? Shalom Ra Yisrael Amcha Tasim Le'olam. Shalom Ra Yisrael Amcha Tasim Le'olam. Ki ata hu melech Adom lechol shalom. Ki ata hu melech Adom lechol shalom. Shalom Ra al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Le'olam. וכאן לברך את עמך ישראל בכל עת ובכל שעה בשלומך שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם.
Our thoughts now turn from prayers for peace to prayers of healing. We hold in our hearts all those in our lives who are in need of a refuah shlema, a complete healing of both body and spirit. We think of those in our world who are suffering, in need of a relief from their pain. And before we pray, we ask ourselves, what can we do to lessen the burden of others? How do we reach out to our friends and family, to our loved ones who are going through difficult times? How can we, between this Shabbat and next, make the time to lessen their burden, to give them comfort, to offer help, or simply sit with them in need? Because it's not enough to pray. Our prayers should lead us to do. Please join us in the Shabbat pamphlet with the Mishaberach.
מי שברך אבותינו, אברהם, יצחק ויעקב. מי שברך אמותינו, שרה, רבקה, לאה ורחל. May the one who blessed our mothers, may the one who blessed our fathers, hear our prayer.
Hear our prayer.
Hear our
Hear
prayer.
our prayer.
Hear our prayer.
Hear our prayer.
Hear our
Hear our
prayer.
prayer.
And bless us as well.
Bless us with the power of your healing. Bless us with the power of your hope. May our hearts be filled with understanding and strengthened by the power of your love. Bless us with a vision for tomorrow. Help us to reach out to those in pain. May the warmth of friendship ease our sorrow. Give us courage, give us faith, show us the way. Mi sheberach avotenu, Mi sheberach imotenu.
Hear our prayer.
Hear our prayer.
Hear our
Hear
prayer.
our prayer.
Hear our
Hear our prayer.
Hear our
Hear our
prayer.
prayer.
Hear our prayer.
Hear our prayer.
Hear our prayer.
Hear our prayer.
Hear our
Hear our
prayer.
prayer. And
Bless
bless us
us as
as well.
Do you know what's happening this weekend?
I actually do know what
You do. What is happening this weekend?
your absolute favorite time of year. But I have a question for you before you begin.
Ask away. I didn't know we were having a private Ask the Rabbi session.
Well, we
but
are
go
right
for it.
now. Do you know what we're going to do for next year? Do you know the theme yet?
Well, since you're not going to be the cantor next year, you'll be retired. It's going to have to be a surprise for you, just like it is for everybody else.
I doubt it. I think you're going to be calling me
In fairness,
and texting me right around Rosh Hashanah.
I wait at least 2 days after Purim before I come up with the idea for
No,
next
before
year.
you tell the
Before I tell you. Heavy is the head on which the crown rests. Is that the quote? I can't remember exactly what that is. So, as you may have figured out, Purim is this weekend. So I thought it might be nice tonight for us to actually think about Purim. It's hard to actually think deeply about Purim on Purim because I tend to be a little drunk. And so I thought those of you who have been to our Megillah and Spiel readings know that I take the mitzvah very seriously of enjoying the holiday. However, the reality is I've not always loved this holiday. It's one that I have been very ambivalent about for years, in part because my first year of rabbinical school, which like all HUC students has spent in Jerusalem, was a very strange Purim. Usually we think of the month of Adar and we think of Purim as starts with unhappiness, ends with happiness. It starts with us thinking that we're going to die. It ends up without, life is fabulous. But that Purim was the opposite. The evening celebrations started out fabulously. There's nothing like celebrating Purim in the streets of Israel. It is joyous, it is raucous. It's utterly amazing. And we went to sleep that night looking forward to going to Hebrew Union College the next morning and to see what our classmates would be dressed up as and to hear the Megillah being chanted. Keep in mind, this is before the internet was really a thing, and so news used to come to us in this thing called a newspaper. It's a little different than today. And on our way to school, we heard the most horrific news. There had been a massacre in Hebron, and it was a Jewish doctor who had committed that massacre. It put me in a very difficult place with Purim for several years, because his justification for the massacre was the holiday of Purim. Because he was looking at a chapter 9 of the book, which those of you who grew up going to Sunday school probably are not at all familiar with, because we kind of jump as quickly over that part as we can. So as most of you know, Haman does the decree, we're all going to die, that the king gives permission for everybody to kill the Jews and to take all of our property. And Esther reverses or sends out a second edict where the Jews can defend themselves. But it's still a really hard chapter to read. It's kind of brutal. Different synagogues have different traditions of how to do it. Some read it really fast. Some chant it very quietly. There's a sense and an understanding and a knowing that there's something uncomfortable with this text. Well, our modern generation of Jews are not the only ones who have had trouble with the holiday of Purim or with the story of Esther. In fact, the early rabbis really struggled with it too. And when the rabbis were canonizing the Bible, deciding what are the final books that are going to make the final cut for the Jewish Bible, and they threw some out. The book of Maccabees, thankfully, got tossed aside, though the Catholics picked it up, put it in the Apocrypha. The book of Esther and Song of Songs were the last two books to finally make the final cut. And the rabbis wrestled with these books, each one for different reasons, except for one thing that both books had in common was what they were. This is good, we need it. The thing that the two books had in common that really bothered the rabbis was there's absolutely no mention of God in either Esther or Song of Songs. So how do you have a book in the Bible that doesn't talk about God? Well, quite frankly, after the massacre in Hebron, I was glad the name of God was not in that book. I was glad that there was no justification that God said, it's okay to do this. It's okay to kill. And so we try to find meaning in Purim in different ways. And the rabbis also, after they put the book in the Bible, they look for God in the book of Esther. And they say, you know what, it may not be explicitly put in there, but it's there if you look for it. That God will be revealed from what is hidden if you just look enough. So I wanted us to look at that, to look at, does God play a role in the Purim story? Does God play a role in our world? do we feel God is hidden in our world? Perhaps God was hidden in the story of Esther. And so there's a wonderful article that I took 2 excerpts from that I wanted us to think about. Where's my voice of God? Since I don't have God in the Torah, at least I could have it. Was Judy the voice of God today? You know, if, oh, you're, so if you could read those 2 paragraphs.
Through the lens of a nitty-gritty melodrama of sex, deception, and violence.
That's a really good summary of why the rabbis had a problem with the book of Esther, like right there.
Yes. The Book of Esther openly critiques the possibility of a secular world of blind fate and challenges the nature of assimilated Jewish life. Without God at its center, Jewish life and Jewish heroes merely become a poor imitation of the world around them. The diaspora Jews depicted at Purim's core can be seen as a fulfillment of biblical prophecy of divine abandonment resulting from Jewish assimilation to the cultural norms counter to a Jewish center.
Let's think about and kind of question some of the assumptions that the author puts in here. So let me ask you, do you agree or disagree with the author's statement, and everything you need to know is right on this page? Do you agree with his statement that without God at its center, Jewish life and Jewish heroes merely become a poor imitation of the world around them? Now, for those of you who feel uncomfortable with the word God, you could substitute holiness, you could substitute your faith, or Judaism. But something really is talking about a moral imperative. So do you agree or disagree that without faith or holiness at its center, or God at its center, Jewish life and Jewish heroes merely become a poor imitation of the world around them?
I was going to say, since I just read it, it's in my mind. On the face of it, I mean, just literally reading that sentence, that's probably true. If you don't have faith or holiness at center, then life is an imitation. But that doesn't mean to say that it's not there. By the actions of the people. Because for, no, okay. I think when you compare it to the already established texts and things like, if you, to the established laws and rules and things like that, if you're still behaving in concert with them, that means that in some manner that has been assimilated into you, so it is part of you. Because I look at this in a sense of, there is this sense of we always have to talk about faith or holiness or being blessed or something like that. And at some point, I think you have to let some of that go so that it's not such in the forefront, because then it becomes more a part of you, and it just becomes part of your behavior.
Any other thoughts or reflections? There's not a right or wrong. This is really about how do we feel about how we engage, what we do in the world. As Reformed Jews, we tend to feel very uncomfortable with God talk, and yet I see people in our congregation, our community, act in ways that are truly holy, that are an embodiment of the values that we have, and sometimes don't think that what they're doing is Jewish. They're saying, oh, it's just what my parents taught me. Which, where do you think their parents learned the values? It's something we pass down. So what are we as a community when we take faith out of it, when we take a sense of morality out of our actions? Is this too heavy for a Friday night?
I actually have a slightly different question, which is this passage, yes, this passage surprised me in talking about the secular diaspora Jews, because in the versions of the story that I've heard, there were the Jews, and maybe some people didn't know who was who, but there was this people there called the Jews that had enough of an identity to be hated by some people. So where is it clear in the story that they had assimilated?
So There's assimilation and there's acculturation. The Jews had definitely acculturated into Persian culture. They were part of the larger culture. You could fit in. Esther could go and, she had no telltale signs that she was Jewish from her attire or her uncle or, any of that. So Jews were definitely acculturated into Babylonian society. And acculturation is different than assimilation, but one might argue that Esther was an assimilated Jew. She goes and lives in the palace. There's discussion in the Talmud. Did she keep kosher? Of course, they're like, well, she didn't have access to kosher meat, so she was a good vegetarian while she was in the palace, so she wouldn't accidentally eat something that was treif. The rabbis wrestle with the fact that she's married to a non-Jewish man. She's living in a palace, not as a Jew, but as just some Persian, so she's hiding her identity. I think we all know, we've all encountered Jews who are kind of closeted in their Jewish identity or ambivalent in their identity. So the question is she a secular Jew? Is she not a secular Jew? We see her do an act of piety when she asks Mordecai to tell the Jews to fast with her. But that's really the only religious act that she does, is the fasting. And I think it challenges us in our identities as secular Jews. She's living in the diaspora. This is a holiday that takes place, or the story takes place outside of the land of Israel. And she, it's very much a story of American Jews. You start out there's a lot of anti-Semitism, things are looking bleak, and then you fast forward and all of a sudden we're part of the establishment. And I think that's been the story over and over, when we've gone into different communities, that it starts out and it's a little sketchy, we tend to become a part of the establishment, bless you, and then anti-Semitism comes in. So let's look at the next question, bless you, which is a little bit more about the diaspora Jews. So question number 2. The author writes that diaspora Jews depicted at Purim's core can be seen as a fulfillment of biblical prophecy of divine abandonment resulting from Jewish assimilation to the cultural counter to a Jewish center. In many ways, Mordecai and Esther identity is similar to that of American Reform Jews. They can blend in when they want to, but they also set boundaries around what they are willing or not willing to do. And that is part of the larger culture. So think about that. I think we've all had those experiences of when do we want to blend in and when do we want to speak out. When my boys were in Little League, a nice secular community organization, every single year, Land Park Little League asks the Catholic priest to conclude opening day ceremonies, which I believe was last weekend, this weekend, with a prayer which always ends, as I don't feel comfortable in saying it in a way in a sanctuary, but you can imagine how he ends his blessing. And we were okay, for several years we didn't say anything, and then finally we were like, we've got to say something. Like, most of these kids in Little League are not Catholic. Could he do something ecumenical? And we felt like we needed to stand up and just not accept it. How many of you grew up singing Christmas carols at your public school? We have so many, but we have so many times in our society where we have to say, do we want to just blend in? Do we want to just go with the flow? Or are we going to stand out? And what was Esther's initial instinct? Blend in. She wasn't going to speak out until it became critical. So, looking at the question, does this strengthen us or does it weaken us when we go with the flow? Does it strengthen us or weaken us when we speak out? I think this is something a lot of us are struggling with these days. As we look at anti-Semitism, as we look at Christianity being very much in the public sphere in a way that it hasn't been before. Are you guys familiar that one of the shows on Fox News now closes with a prayer? Did you guys see that in the news this last week? I think one of their sponsors, I'm not sure who their sponsor is, but they now end with a prayer on a so-called news show. We have members of Congress who are very clear in saying this is a Christian nation, not a nation where the majority of the people are Christians, but it is a nation founded on Christianity. So what should we do? Should we go with the flow, or should we speak out? I'm asking you because I'm not always sure.
And
mean, I think it's a case-by-case basis, right? Like, definitely we would want to speak out as you position it that way, but Esther only got as far as she did because she chose when to speak out and how she did it. And I think we have a lot of power if we can be strategic.
She was extremely strategic. She knew that she couldn't just run into the king's chambers and yell, "What is going on here?" She had to be very careful of how she presented it. I heard a speak out someplace. Doug, was that you? Or who was the speak out? Fair enough, David. But I think what Marion said is right. It's something we struggle with all the time about how to be strategic, about when to speak out, over what to speak out, at what point does something cross over a threshold. You know, is singing a Christmas carol at school the same as, I don't know, what's worse? I mean, there's lots of things. I'm not going to make our junior high school students speak out on that, but the stories we hear from our school students these days, there's a lot of pressure on them about whether or not to stay quiet or to speak up for their beliefs. I knew you were going to speak, Doug. Go for it. What about it?
The idea that we know that in a given year we're going to say and do things that to survive, to exist, and so we sort of built in that prayer, that song, to cover that inevitability.
That's interesting. So the rabbis actually compare Purim to Yom Kippur, because Yom Kippur, Kippurim, they say that Yom Kippur is like Purim, because in Yom Kippur, we strip ourselves kind of to our basic essence, and on Purim, we allow our inner essence to come out and to be displayed, you know, through the costumes. And it's a reminder to us that sometimes we have to show who we are, and sometimes we say or do things to kind of cover who we are. Let's look at this, the last, oh, sorry, Leanna.
Elie Wiesel said that if you're silent, then you're agreeing. And that's, we are acquiescing, so.
Right. And we see that also today, that if we're just silent about things that we see, what was that group? The silent majority. You know, it's very easy for politicians to kind of manipulate the perspective, saying, oh, well, no one's complaining about this, so it must be okay. Right. So let's look at the last paragraph in that article. A social commentary on the cause of the concealed face of God, the Book of Esther challenges both Jewish and divine identity from numerous directions. Purim can be understood as a ritualized celebration of breaking down day-to-day persona and identity by questioning the old and trying on the new. The festival also presents the deeper conflict of Jews who do not know who they really are in relation to their own culture, the surrounding culture, or their creator. Indeed, even the identity of God, certainly the hero of the Hebrew Bible, is challenged. God does not even make a cameo appearance in the Book of Esther, at least not in a form to which the text cares to give a name. So the rabbis teach us that God is there but hidden, and that the place that we could look for the reference of God is when Mordecai tells Esther, if you don't speak out, that's fine. Help will come from a different source, from a different place. And the rabbis teach us that that indicates to us that who's that source of help that ultimately will come? It's God. But that's not what the book does. The book demands that we act. It demands that Esther act. It's her actions that changes the course of our history. So let me ask you this. In this difficult time in which we live in, do you feel like the presence of God is hidden? Or do you feel like we can see the presence of God around us?
I believe that that is truly about what we focus on. I can see the presence of God if that's what I'm looking for. And if I'm not, then I can see all the horrors that go alongside.
I think that's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Any other thoughts? So you have to hold the microphone like this and talk straight into it in order to be heard.
Laura, I'm going to try to sum it up. She said it beautifully. Laura said basically, it's if you're looking for it. If you're looking for God, you will find it. Otherwise, what you'll be seeing are the horrors that are all around us. Did I miss anything, Laura? Oh, I'm going to come back to you, but first.
You know, I think I said now we said okay. That I think some of it also. I'm going to go back to a little story if that's okay. Okay, two of them. There's a Hasidic story where the Rebbe is teaching his disciples, and one of his disciples said, "Where is God?" And the Rebbe answers, "God is found wherever the human being lets God in." So I think when all of us, there's a sense of goodness or godliness, whatever term we want to use, but we're in control of whether we let it out or don't let it out. And when we do X or speak out or so on, then we are letting God out. It isn't that God or goodness isn't there, but we have to be the one to activate it. And there's a beautiful thing from also the mystical literature, which is the Jewish star is one triangle reaching up to God, and the other is a triangle is God reaching down to us, and they're intertwined. And i.e., we don't exist without this idea of goodness or speaking, but also God does not exist if we don't employ and do it.
That was great because, Rabbi, what you just did was answer my first question exactly. Oops. Like I hope people would. Let's go back to that first question. Without God at its center, Jewish life and Jewish heroes merely become a poor imitation of the world around them. God can be found also within each of us, within our moral center. When we think that the source of our power, the source of our talents and our gifts to the world are just from us because we are arrogant enough to believe that we are amazing and powerful, then sometimes we use that power in a way that can be destructive and harmful. But when we look for that spark of light that is within us, when we recognize all that, say that first midrash again, because that was...
God is found within each or goodness. Again, I have a little trouble with the word God. Okay, that is found within us, and we are the ones who either let that out or don't let that out. It's put there. Our souls are put there, but then it's up to us. From there, we're the ones in control.
See within ourselves a reflection of the divine, of the holy and the sacred, that's going to be reflected in our actions. But when we refuse to see that, then our power and our strength is going to be used not to help lift people up, but to put them down. And so my prayer for you on this Shabbat is, as Laura said, you look for the holiness around you, you look for the good and not just the bad, and that when you look in the mirror, you see the spark of goodness and the spark of holiness that dwells within each of us. Because if you see that goodness and that holiness, then hopefully it will inform your actions and your deeds as you go about in the world. Shabbat Shalom. It's my pleasure to invite up the president of our congregation, Jay Chenier, for some Shabbat greetings and announcements.
Shabbat Shalom. Cantor, Michael, thank you for leading us. Rabbi, thank you. It's been a tough week for Jews in this city. We know that. I appreciate you creating the environment where we can have these conversations, where we can feel safe, and where we can disagree when we need to disagree. So thank you. A few announcements. There's something going on Sunday. Cantor, what is it?
I can't remember.
This Sunday. Mishigas. We have Mishigas Sunday coming up. The lineup for Sunday, 12:30 to 2:30, is the Purim Carnival Festival. That's presented by Busy, our young people. Featuring the costume parade, which I know you all are getting ready for as we speak. Rabbi, you as well?
I've literally had it for months.
Always have a rabbi well prepared. You never know when Purim's going to come around. 5:30 p.m. we have the Purim Pasta dinner hosted by the confirmation class. 6:30, Megillah and Purim Spiel. So it should be a very, very fun day. Hope you all can come. There are still tickets available through tonight, I believe, for the dinner on Sunday. Yeah, the Megillah and Purim Spiel is free. Hope you all come. I'm looking forward to it. Tomorrow morning, 9:30 a.m. weekly Torah study in person and via Zoom. 10:30 a.m. Shabbat morning service in the chapel with Judy and Blair. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Looking ahead, two things. One is, and I've said this for the last few weeks, I will keep saying it until someone tells me to stop or we're done. We are really run by great clergy, great lay leadership, and our volunteers. And our volunteers are you all who come in and help on committees, help on the board, help make this place run so that we can get what we need out of it, both spiritually and programmatically. What we're doing is a 5-session leadership class. The first 2 sessions will really be for anyone who wants to attend to learn more about the operations of the temple. How do we make all this run? Who does what? And an ability to ask questions and talk to us about your opinions on all of that. The sessions 3, 4, and 5 will really be for folks who want to step up and into leadership positions. Lisa Brocky is leading a lot of it. The rabbi will lead some, I will lead some, and others. I think that it will be really worthwhile. We had some great pathways before COVID. That kind of went away for a while, so we're really starting to build that back up. If you're interested, you can just look at the B'nai website, cbisacramento.org, /event/leadership. Just go on the website. And then also registration is open for Camp Shalanu. And if you're interested in that, you can also go on the website and find that as well. With that, I'd like to have our committee members and our leaders, past presidents, future presidents, introduce themselves.
Shabbat Shalom, I'm Judy Hyman. I am the board secretary and chair of the Racial Justice Committee.
Nita Davidson, I'm the Shamus coordinator.
Stacia Levy, board member at large.
Dale Kassler, past president.
Bina Lefkowitz, past president.
Twyla Morris, I'm co-chairing the Cursive to Print project. If anyone is interested in, we are now volume 3, 1890, recording the minutes of the Board of Directors of B'nai Israel. Type and read cursive.
Laurel Hollis, co-chair, membership committee.
Laurel Tochterman, caring community.
Bruce Tochterman, past president.
Jason Weiner, social action chair, and also on the leadership committee for the Religious Action Center's Every Voice, Every Vote campaign. If you're interested in getting people out to vote across the country in this next election, please come talk to me.
Judy Amick Leatherwood, I'm chair of the music committee. I'm the choir wrangler, and I also schedule people to chant Torah on non-B'nai Mitzvah days, especially July.
Can I introduce someone?
Yeah, of course.
So if you came here 17 and a half years ago for my installation as senior rabbi of the congregation, you would then remember the wonderful and fabulous Rabbi Stephen Chester, who was the rabbi who installed me. So if you have a problem, this is Rabbi Stephen Chester. And this is the very wonderful Leona Chester. Rabbi Chester and Leona have recently moved up to Sacramento from the Bay Area, and it is a pleasure to be able to have both of you in town and part of the Jewish community up here. Rabbi Chester is also, I think, only one of 2 people who has been to who's older than I am at camp. I think it's just you and Jim Kaufman, and that's it. And so if you go to Camp Newman in the summer, you have likely met Rabbi Chester as well, and we've had the pleasure of working together many a summer there. So welcome to town, both of you.
Welcome. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Did you tell us we have an oneg afterwards? Oh, you left that for me. Okay, thanks. So please, please join us after services. There's a wonderful oneg awaiting us through those doors and into the social hall, and I hope everyone will be able to stay afterwards. But first, it is my pleasure to invite up all of our B'nai Mitzvah students once again to join us on the Bima and to do us the honor of leading us in the Aleinu, which can be found on the bottom half of page 586. Please rise.
Who's Emmett?
Emmett, you're in charge of getting everybody up here.
You're the shepherd. By the way, the announcer.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עצרנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמענו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגור עלינו ככל העולם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד הארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינת זו בגובה מרומים, הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, אמת מלכנו אפס זולתו, כך כתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום והשבות אל לבבך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת אין עוד. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
Please be seated.
Our thoughts now turn to loved ones who are no longer with us. And it is our tradition to welcome those back into our midst who have most recently said goodbye to a loved one. And so on behalf of the congregation, it's with sadness that we welcome you back, Annabelle, after losing your very beloved cousin, Harry Fendrick. Cousins are special. We get to love them and play with them in a way that we don't always do with our own siblings, because we don't necessarily have the same rivalry with them that we do with our siblings. And in many ways, they get to be kind of our first friends and the first gang that we hang out with, the people who make family occasions worth going to and fun. And so my condolences to you on the passing of your cousin. Grandparents also play a very special role in a child's life, because their whole job is simply to love us, not to discipline us, not to tell us what we did wrong, but rather to tell us how perfect and wonderful and amazing we are. And so Josh and Abby, it's with sadness that we welcome you back into the congregation tonight after losing your very beloved grandmother, Marge Bischofberger, Has she reached 100 yet, or was she over 100? 101. So close to 120, but 19 years to go. What an extraordinary woman she must have been, and I'm sorry I didn't know her, but I have the blessing of knowing her daughter and her grandchildren, and if the three of you are anything like her, then she must have been truly one of the kindest souls. So our condolences to you. Doug. So Doug and Samra and Zach and Ariel, it is with sadness that we welcome you into this room tonight on the passing of your mother, Doug, Marilyn Kaur, a strong woman, and I know she had to be strong because she raised a strong man. What a blessing she was. And I know that she's out of pain and not suffering, and while that in itself is a good thing, it's always hard to say goodbye to the people that we love, no matter how old they are. And so my condolences to all of you on the passing of Marilyn. It is also with sadness that we recall the recent passing of Rosalind Raz Sudakov, the beloved cousin of Larry Friedman. And also with sadness, we recall the passing of Kathy Douglas Cannon Morgan, the beloved mother of Annie Morgan, beloved mother-in-law of Julie Weckstein, beloved grandmother of Abby Pierce. And sadly, we recall the passing of our longtime member, Robert Wood, the beloved husband of Lori Wood and beloved father of Hannah Wood. Zichronam livracha. May all of their memories forever be a blessing. We also recall loved ones who passed away at this time in years past. We remember Mary Lou Bloom and Samuel Brannon, Harold Croter, Andrea Fitzwater, Ray Ford, Henry Glink, Anna Goldberg, Jerry Goldfaden, Mary Shields Gordon, Mildred Gould, Philip Green, Faye Grossman, Harry Grossman, David Harkavy, Jeremy Hollis, Florence Corer, William Core, Elaine Krause, Nathan Krotinger, Lucille Levin, Joseph Metz, Ilona Milch, Michael Mizzi, Fanny Neustadt, Fanny Samaville Neustadt, Sally Ostroff, Marcia Pereira, Murray Robinson, Helen Rosenbaum, Rosalie Rotman, George Saroff, Henry Seaman, Lynn Senecal, Edward Sarin, Julia Elizabeth Shelton, Bertha Schuper, Lorraine Solomon, Mary Spack, Jay Sirenvasan, Lionel Stein, Addie Steinberg, Phyllis Ann Warren, Hans Willis, and Clayton York. If there are any names that anyone would like to add to the Kaddish list tonight, please feel free to call those names aloud as my gaze meets yours. If you are saying Kaddish for a loved one tonight, I'd like to invite you to please rise. And for the congregation to please join me in these words of comfort. Hamakom yenechem etchem betok sha'ar of Leid Zion v'Yushalayim. May God comfort you among the mourners of Zion and Jerusalem. And for those who are able, I'd like to invite you to please rise so we may comfort those who are in mourning. And we continue on page 598 with the Mourner's Kaddish. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, ve'alma divra chirute v'yamlich malchute, v'chayechon uvyomechon uvchaye dechol Beit Yisrael, v'algala uvizman kari v'imru amen. Yehe shmei rabbah mevarach le'olam umei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitba'ar v'yitraman v'yitnaseh, V'yitadar, v'yitale, v'yitolal, shmei tekudsha, barichu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tush v'chata v'nechemata, gam iran be'alma ve'imru, amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru, amen. Oseh shalom b'ramav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru, amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and comfort to all who are bereaved. And let us say,
Amen.
So one of the things that you may not know is that pretty much each and every Friday morning, Michael Hersher sends a text and says, what's the theme of Shabbat this week? Wanting to know, like, what am I going to talk about? And then begins the challenge for him to come up with a closing song that somehow matches the teaching. So I told Michael that tonight's theme was Purim and God is hidden in the world. So I am really curious to see what you came up with this one, Michael.
Well, I came up with a song that it embraces and owns the concept of the mysterious. And it acknowledges that to be a Jew is not to know all the answers, it's to keep wrestling over and over. That's why we read the Torah over and over, year after year, finding different answers to different questions every year. But we never are done with the sort of existential questions. And so this is a song about that by a woman who some of you mountain people know named Iris Dement. Yeah, baby. So I had to tweak the words to take some of the Christian stuff out. Everybody is wondering what and where they all came from. Everybody is worrying about where they're going to go when the whole thing's done. No one knows for certain, so it's all the same to me. I think I'll just let the mystery be. Some say once you're gone forever. Some say you're gonna come back. Some say you rest in the arms of the Creator if in sinful ways you lack. Some say they're coming back in a garden, bunch of carrots or little sweet peas. I think I'll just let the mystery be. Everybody is wondering what and where they all came from. Everybody is worrying about where they're going to go when the whole thing's done. But no one knows for certain, so it's all the same to me. I think I'll just let the mystery be. Some say they're going to a place called Gan Eden, and I ain't saying it ain't a fact. But I heard I'm on the road to Gehenna, and I don't like the sound of that. Well, I believe in love, and I live my life accordingly. But I choose to let the mystery be. Everybody is wondering what and where they all came from. Everybody is worrying about where they're going to go when the whole thing's done. But no one knows for certain, so it's all the same to me. I think I'll just let the mystery be. I think I'll just let the mystery be.
Yeah, it's a wild guess, but Cantor and I think maybe Gehenna was not in the original version of the song.
We were wondering.
Yeah. We conclude the service with the Kiddush and the Motzi. Afterwards, we hope everyone will please join us in the social hall for the Onig. Got yours? The Kiddush can be found on page 123.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu בשבת קודשו, באהבה וברצון הנחילנו, זיכרון למעשה בראשית, כי הוא יום תחילה למקראי קודש, זכר לציון מצרים. כי בנו בחרת, ואותנו קידשת מכל העמים, ושבת קודשך באהבה וברצון הנחלתנו. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת. אמן. לחיים ולשלום. It's because it's metal.
You're not a fan.
So for those of you who have not joined us on a Shabbat since COVID, we no longer have everybody come up, stand in close proximity, touch the challah, and then eat what other people have touched. So this challah is for blessing purposes only, but there is a wonderful pre-sliced, untouched challah awaiting everybody along with other delicacies in the oneg.
Are we ready?
We're ready. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min